Hello, hope you are enjoying your day wherever you may be and at whatever time you're watching me. I'm Sarah Hepworth, so I'm here to deliver my talk for Educating Northants today. So hopefully through the way that we teach reading, as well as our reading for pleasure kind of ethos in the school and our culture that we're working towards and we're building, actually the way that we teach reading should still be quite a pleasurable, inquisitive, challenging experience for our children, and I believe that the reciprocal reading approach does actually help us deliver that as well. So I just thought it would be a good idea just to kind of think about this idea of reading having these two strands. And yes, I'm going to talk to you about reading, reciprocal reading as a pedagogy today. So I'm going to be talking more about reading instruction. However, I do believe it's kind of got this crossover between the reading instruction side, which is the skill base, the comprehension, the actual being able to read part, being able to understand it. And then you've got this other side of it, of where you've got the reading for pleasure side, where the children actually choose, and it's an intrinsic, they're not motivated by the fact that we say we're going to give you some awards if you read three times this week. No, they're the children who firmly go and pick up a book just because they want to. But actually, although we look at these as two separate ways, I think if you can deliver your reading lessons in an exciting, engaging way that really activates their mind, you start to impact both sides of it. So yes, we might be teaching them within the lesson the skill to read, and we might be teaching them the phonics and the blending and also the understanding as well, and obviously therefore impacting on their attainment. But also, if we deliver that in that exciting way, well, of course, we're naturally going to start igniting some reading for pleasure inside them. We're going to use that method to try and engage them and make them be more inquisitive and more excited and go away and do that reading on their own and through their own choice as well. What I want to talk to you now is about the reciprocal reading strategies. And where this comes in is where people say, well, I teach them reading, but I don't feel like I really teach them the skills of comprehension. Or you might find the opposite, that people go, well, I teach to the test. I teach them the questions, I have sentence stems of the questions, and that's what I use. And I just drill them, and we just practice and we practice and we practice. And that's okay until one year they change the form of their questions and they decide to do it in a different way. Or it's okay if you only want to create readers who can pass a test. But actually, do we not want to create lifelong readers who want to pick up a book even when they leave us in primary and go into secondary? We want to have those lifelong skills and motivation from the children, the curiosity from the children, that when they get into year 7, year 8, they're still picking up those books off their own back and thinking, I wonder if this could be happening because of this. And actually, I remember this connection in this book. It sounds very similar to the starter of this book. So if we're going to be thinking about reciprocal reading, then this is something that Alex Quigley talks about as an approach within his Closing the Gap books, in both the vocab and the reading one as well. And he talks about it as kind of giving people the collaborative approach within reading. And when I was reading about this, it's a collaborative approach to teach reading strategies. Well, how nicely does that fit with Teresa Kremen, who talks about the fact that reading is a social and collaborative thing. So just some quotes and some research here where they were talking about reading, and the last one actually made me think back to my days of reading and having to answer lots of questions but not being given that opportunity to interact and inquire and reflect. And as an adult now, that's the element of reading that I naturally want to do. I read a book, I want to go and tell someone about it. I want to ask them, did you see that? Did you read this? What did you think about it? That it comes back again to that social side of reading. So how many reading lessons are our children fully interactive in? And how many times are they allowed to have their true response to it? Are they allowed to lead the questioning and direct the way the lesson goes? Or is it a case that your reading lessons or our reading lessons are, this is the book we're reading, these are the questions I want you to answer, go. Yeah, you might talk about it. Let's talk about whether you've got 3 points for that or 2 points. but actually, is it as interactive as it could be? And again, like I said, there's a fine balance between everything. Yes, you have to prepare them for tests and exams, but equally, life skill wise, we have to prepare them to be interactive and to be active in what they're reading and what they're learning as well. So hopefully I've convinced you by now the benefits to reciprocal reading and some of the research around why we chose it. Now, this is the suggested way of running it. So as a school, most of us, and I'll say most of us because I have been trying some different things in year 4, so I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute, do 30-minute sessions 4 times a week. Now, I will say that's flexible, of course it is. It's you know, any training you go on, you sit and you think, yeah, I could do that bit and I want to take that bit, but I want to tweak it. So this is the suggested guideline. This is roughly what we follow. These are important elements. With reciprocal reading, they are in mixed ability groups if possible. They have the whole class will have the same book, which may be terrifying some of you, and you might be thinking, well, that's all right for you. You must have a class who are all working at age related of year 4. Well, I don't. I do have children who are below year 4, and yet they have been able to successfully take part in my lessons of The Girl Who Stole an Elephant. That was our text that we started. That book, if you haven't read it, is great, but it's also fairly challenging for our readers, both phonetically and also the comprehension side. However, because we're in mixed ability groups, they're able to help each other. You might put things in, so sometimes I will ask my TA to pre-read to the children. So those children who I know phonetically will find it quite difficult will already have been exposed to the language. So there's ways round that. And when I moved to this approach and I kind of asked the children's opinion about it, and I'll never forget their face going, I can't believe I'm on the same book as everyone else. And you know, none of us want to make our children feel like they're not able to be on the same book as everybody else. Within the groups, you'd often have somebody who is the predictor. So when they are doing their reading, they may be thinking in their head, well, my role is to analyse this piece of text as if I'm going to be predicting something. So they might have a card or a bookmark or a little kind of roll card that tells them what they need to do. But that would be their purpose for reading, their purpose for discussion and their recording for that day would be to be the predictor. Equally, we then have the clarifier. So that would be somebody who really focused on the vocabulary. And within that role, we would teach them to not just automatically look in a dictionary. If you've got a test or exam, you won't have a dictionary there. So actually that clarifier role is really important to teach them how to be a word detective. Another role would be the summariser. So thinking about the big ideas from the bit of reading that they've just read, can they then summarise it down for people? Then the questioner, who you might have guessed, that's obviously my theme of today, is a role that I think has humongous potential and power. And then sometimes we'll have a leader, sometimes not. I've kind of put that one at the bottom because it's a suggested role, but sometimes I'm flexible with it. However, what I do want to talk about today, because I don't want to keep you here all day, is the questioner role. Because like I said earlier, I think the power of questions is huge, and the potential to really develop curious children who have a deeper understanding, I feel, sits within the questioner role.